Now, Shepard Smith reporting live from the Fox News deck.
Weather alert to start us off, 3 o'clock on Florida's East Coast, where if the state's governor is right, millions of people are about to experience a living nightmare. The forecast is for a direct hit by the most powerful storm to hit the United States in more than a decade. Emergency workers report carrying out large-scale evacuations along Florida's East Coast. Millions and millions of people under orders to get out before it's too late. Our reporters say many are staying, and for them, if the forecasters are right, too late will come very soon. 145-mile-an-hour winds lift rocks and throw them around like bullets. They turn trees into missiles, they break windows, they tear down power lines. Soon you can't see anything. The sound is deafening and completely disorienting. I've lived it, and it is hell. The storm surge of a monster cyclone like Matthew, if it hits just right, will wash homes away and leave anyone inside to die a violent death. This is not to scare you, it's to remind you what happened when Katrina hit the Mississippi coast. It struck at 2 a.m. in my state. Sustained hurricane-force winds on the coast of Mississippi for 17 hours. It spawned 11 tornadoes, produced a 28-foot storm surge, destroyed tens of thousands of homes, and killed hundreds of people in my state. Some of their bodies have not been recovered. Some of their families had nothing to bury. And Matthew is expected to be stronger and last longer than Katrina. You see what I'm saying? It's hitting a much more populated area. Maybe it will stay offshore. Maybe Florida will get lucky. It's a very big maybe, and it's not a gamble you can take. If they've warned you to evacuate, do it now, or risk death on a freeway in a traffic jam from hell later. As Florida's governor has warned repeatedly, this storm will kill you. It will kill your children, it will kill your pets, and everyone you know who wants to mess with it. Unless you get lucky. Here's a look at where Matthew is now. Today, it brought winds of 125 miles an hour to the Bahamas. The forecasters say the hurricane is getting stronger, and as it makes its way toward the United States, it will continue to strengthen. They're telling people to expect life-threatening conditions. This video gives you a look at where the storm was in Cuba as it made its way toward the Bahamas. This is from a so-called hurricane hunter plane that flies above the storm, helps the forecasters track it. 100 people died in Haiti. Forecasters say half of the state of Florida, half of it, could see tropical storm force level winds. In fact, they're warning we could see tornadoes even before the hurricane gets there. Thousands of people have already checked into shelters. Airports are closed or closing. The governor, Rick Scott, told people this morning the clock is ticking.
If you're in an evacuation zone, get out. This is not something you should take a chance with. Time's running out. Leave. There's no excuses. The roads are open. You should get out. Evacuate, evacuate, evacuate.
As I mentioned, the storm has already left behind devastation in the Caribbean. The Interior Minister in Haiti says now the death toll is 108, and they're still looking. Thousands and thousands of homes are destroyed. The government there estimates hundreds of thousands of people need some kind of humanitarian aid. It is a disaster. Despite the warnings, lots of people here in the United States have said they're not going anywhere. We will not cover your funerals, and we will not feel sorry for you. They're stocking up supplies, boarding up their homes, and hoping, which is moronic. Matthew is a rare Category 4 hurricane. This animation shows a look at the scale of the damage that we expect there. If it hits the way they're predicting, this is what we expect. Winds could reach speeds at times of 155 miles an hour. Over on our wall, a look at the storm track. The forecasters today have expanded the area where the storm may hit. See this? Melbourne, Daytona Beach, all the way up to Jacksonville. This moves 20 miles to the west, and you and everyone you know are dead. All of you. Because you can't survive it. It's not possible unless you're very, very lucky. And your kids die too. We have Team Fox coverage. Steve Harrigan is in Wabasso Beach in Florida with a look at how things are going there. But first, let's get to Janice Dean, who's in the Extreme Weather Center. You know, there's a risk that you build something up too much and then it doesn't hit. They're pretty sure, Janice, aren't they? They're pretty sure that if it doesn't stay out to sea, a lot of people are going to die.
Well, you have to take into account that when this storm hit Haiti, and the pictures that we are seeing from Haiti, it was the same strength. It was a Category 4 storm. So if this storm is the same strength that hit Haiti, and we're getting pictures, now obviously the homes in Haiti, the structures are not as sound as what we have all up and down the East Coast, but that is certainly something to take into account. And of course, we haven't had a major hurricane hit the U.S. in 10 years. Like you mentioned, the last was Wilma in 2005. So hopefully people are heeding those warnings. Millions of people have never experienced a hurricane, and they're about to. So the hurricane itself is about 100 miles away from West Palm Beach. So we're getting there, and we're starting to see those outer bands moving across South Florida, Central Florida. You mentioned the tornado threat. That is going to be imminent over the next several days all along the coast. And you can see those winds right now. And there's the core of that storm with 140 mile per hour sustained winds, and the hurricane force winds extending 60 miles from the center of this storm. So 140 mile per hour sustained winds, and the pressure has dropped within the last advisory. So there is indication that this storm is strengthening. We have a lot of warm water. The Gulf Stream is ahead of this storm, Shepard. That's where the warmest waters are, and that's why we think perhaps intensification is possible as it moves closer to the shoreline.
Landfall middle of the night, Janice, where?
Well, we're going to start to see the conditions deteriorate, in the evening hours, and then the closest brush with Florida will be in the overnight and into tomorrow morning. And look how close it comes. And you mentioned, scraping across land. It doesn't matter if this makes landfall. If the core of the strongest winds are on shore, you're going to have hours and hours and hours of a major hurricane on your doorstep. And you mentioned, listen, if this goes 50 miles east offshore, that would be a good thing. If it moves 20, 30 miles inland, not a good thing, because we have tens of millions of people that are going to be affected by this storm. And Shep, this has been a major hurricane for almost a week, Category 3 or higher. And look, it remains strong as a Category 4 as we get into Georgia and then the Carolinas. And then we have to watch this because there is some indication that it could spin back towards land. So hurricane warnings in effect really for millions of people all up and down the East Coast, 11 million people. And look at the National Hurricane Center forecast wind field. So these are hurricane force winds onshore, 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 48, 60 hours. We didn't talk about the storm surge, 10 feet plus. That's above your height. That could do significant damage. And that's why the National Hurricane Center has put out the dire warnings of this could be life-threatening with a storm surge of over 10 feet, and that's going to be continuous into Georgia and the Carolinas. Power outages. Millions of people will have the power out, not just for days, but perhaps weeks. So people that didn't evacuate are not going to be able to go anywhere for perhaps days or weeks as people try to get out and rescue them. This is, of course, the worst-case scenario. Forecast rainfall anywhere from 10 to 12 inches, and freshwater flooding and storm surge is the #1 killer when it comes to hurricane landfalls. So we're going to be dealing with this all day tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday for this vulnerable area along Florida and the southeast coast. Turn around, don't drown. Janice, thank you. Look at that. We're going to come back to her repeatedly. This is the southeastern coast of Florida, from Miami-Dade, Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood, West Palm Beach, no planes. This is the national plane tracking map that we use all the time to see what's happening where. There are no planes. Every airport is shut. Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood International, Miami International, the Palm Beaches, all shut down. Orlando is still going. They'll shut down as of 8 o'clock tonight. If you got friends over in Naples, Fort Myers, St. Pete, Clearwater, that's not a bad place to go. But certainly this storm is so big that it's eventually going to bring water everywhere. This is the local radar. You can see the radar loop right here. This one's coming out of the Keys, and this one's coming out of Broward County. And you can see these bands that are with it. That upper right quadrant, if you're looking at a storm right here, that's the quadrant that's the worst. So at least it's saying that the worst of it will be out here. But the back half of this is nothing to sneeze at. You can see this eye right here. It's hard to tell from this. Well, maybe I can make it a little bigger here. The eye itself is getting smaller.
That's normal. As a storm strengthens, the eye gets smaller, the winds wrap tighter around that eye, and the eye becomes smaller. This one is about 16, 17 miles in diameter and appears to be shrinking. That could mean that an eye wall replacement cycle is coming, and we can hope. What happens is that the eye of that storm, that those central winds, the worst of it all, get tighter and tighter, and there's more and more energy, and another eye wall forms outside of it. The one on the inside disappears. It's like a snake shedding its skin. And during that period of eye wall replacement, which can go on for hours, the pressure goes up and the winds go lighter. So if you've got 140 miles an hour winds during an eye wall replacement cycle, it might get down to 120 or 115 miles an hour. The central pressure will rise, so it won't be as destructive. We can hope that an eye wall replacement cycle is coming, and we do. But there's no way to know exactly when that sort of thing happens. It could happen long from now, but until it does, unless and until this storm moves to the east, there's big trouble coming in Mom's old state. Team Fox Coverage continues. Steve Harrigan live at Wabasso Beach. Steve?
Shepard, I got to tell you, it's a little surprising to see how bad this has gotten when still the worst of it here in Sebastian, Florida, is still 12 hours away. The rain coming in at 45-degree angle, almost sideways. The beach behind me has pretty much disappeared, and once it does disappear, there's a lot of homes in the way. There's 1.5 million people in this state who've been told that they have to evacuate, and a lot of them are taking that very seriously, on the move. If you're in hotels around here, if you're in the lobbies, what you see are often a lot of old people. You see walkers, oxygen tanks, wheelchairs, and people are scared. They have to leave, and they're going where they can. I saw a woman at the front desk in the Best Western who was afraid she was on the first floor. She wanted to be on the third floor because she thinks the first floor might be underwater by the end of the night. There's also been a real stoicism here. I've talked to 3 people this morning from manufactured houses, and they said they don't expect to be anything there when they're gone, and they just said it as a matter of fact. So people here are dealing with tremendous stress, tremendous fear, and often elderly, and often on their own. So a real stressful situation for the next 12 hours. And we're hearing these things about evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. At this point, you know, it's hard to stand up on the beach. The rain has kicked up, the wind has kicked up, and for someone to drive in this, it's going to be very difficult. This morning there were 3-hour lines at Home Depot, people boarding up what they can, and everything that you need right now, bottled water, gasoline, are all tough to come by. It's a scary time right now.
Yes, Steve, I was wondering if they are prepared for this reality that we really haven't heard about before. Hurricane Andrew came through in about 4 hours. It was moving at about 30 miles an hour. It was in and out. Hurricane Katrina moved in at about half that speed. Not this one. This one they're predicting in the area where it actually comes ashore, and they think that'll be around 3 o'clock in the morning. So Friday morning at 3 o'clock. Saturday morning at 3 o'clock, it's still hurricane force winds. Sunday morning at 3 o'clock, it's still hurricane force winds. And it's Monday afternoon before hurricane force winds subside. 60 hours of hurricane force winds. How are they going to have emergency workers in that sort of condition?
Yeah, they can't go out at certain wind speeds. And just to put those numbers in some sort of perspective, when you say a 10-foot storm surge, that's well over 4 feet over my head right now. And if it does hit here at 3 in the morning, as possible, with 120, 130 mile an hour winds, all these trees that I'm looking at, all these roofs that I'm looking at, will be gone. So the governor has warned this is the potential for a catastrophe. He's opening more shelters. He's activating more National Guard. He's asking for help from the federal government. He wants generators, tarps, water, food. We could be in for a real rough ride here along a long expanse on the East Coast.
Steve Harrigan, you be careful. Hurricane Hugo, Mount Pleasant, North Carolina, as far as you could see, nothing but logs. Nothing but trees that are now firewood. Hurricane Andrew, as far as you could see in all directions, nothing but scrap wood. What used to be homes and dead animals and dead people. Hurricane Katrina in South Mississippi, like a nuclear bomb went off. And if this does what they predicted that it may, it'll be just like that across the entirety of the east coast of the Florida Peninsula. If you have not gone and they've told you to go, go. Do it now. Don't let your children die in your house because you were hoping that it wouldn't be too bad.
Preaching and preaching to get out now. The window on the opportunity to get out is closing. We were on patrol up here within the last hour, and I had a mother outside with 2 young children, and she said to me, "I'm going to ride it out, Chief. Everything's going to be okay." And I was like, "Are you crazy?" And we're going to go back every hour on the hour till we convince her she's got to get off of the peninsula. This isn't anything to play with. This is devastating. People are going to lose lives. There's a catastrophe waiting to happen here.
I talked to a number of police officers in South Mississippi, past Christian, Mississippi, after it was over, and they talk about going home to home of people they knew. And they break in the house and they search the house, and most often they put an X on the door saying nobody's in there, but every 15th house they walk in and the old lady from the store is dead in there. And how hard that is for law enforcement officials who are made to save lives. Instead, they're carrying corpses out.
And that's what we're trying to do. We're preaching, get out and get out now. There's going to be a loss of power. You're going to lose your cell phone. You're going to lose your internet connection. There's going to be severe flooding with the storm surge. And a lot of people aren't understanding that. When you're out here on A1A today, a lot of people get it. But as I drive by the oceanfront condos, I drive into the community, there's a lot of people's cars are still in their driveway. They're out in their yard doing yard work. And they're like, "Yeah, Chief, we're still debating." There is no debate. The time for debate is over. At 6 p.m. tonight or a little thereafter, we're going to start shutting down the bridges east side and preventing people from coming up on the peninsula. And I just hope to God that people get it and make a beeline and get out of here.
It's a paradise until it isn't, and it's just not for the next few days. You guys got a plan to keep all your guys safe?
We do. Starting tonight at 6 o'clock, it's all hands on deck. All 250 officers will be in. We'll be here for the duration. We have put up stops for their families. They could bring their family into a secure location. All employees have that option so that they don't have to worry about it. And the officers are going to be well fed and taken care of. There'll become a time tonight, though, Shepard, when the winds pick up that we will not be able to respond. And it's going to be too late for the residents who have decided to stay. And then they try to call 911. And guess what? We won't be able to get there. We cannot stress that enough. There'll be a time tonight when we won't be able to get there to help.
We thank you, Chief, for all you do. I know Floridians do from coast to coast, and we'll be right back. South Carolina is also bracing for Hurricane Matthew. Forecasters say some places could get a foot of rain and that the storm surge could hit 5 feet up to here. Governor Nikki Haley started ordering evacuations 2 days ago. This morning, she said only 175,000 people had evacuated, and she needs another 200,000 to get out now. She also said about 2,000 National Guard troops are on hand to help out. In fact, in all of the areas combined, 6,500 National Guards activated now. Jonathan Seri's at Folly Beach, a barrier island off Charleston that saved it many times. Don't know about this time.
Yeah, Shep. In fact, this community was devastated back in 1989 during Hurricane Hugo, so they take the threat of this storm very seriously. You can see them boarding up windows to deal with the heavy winds, and then down here, sandbags at the foot of doors to prevent the floodwaters from storm surge, hopefully from getting into these businesses here. We spoke with a contractor who was helping to board up these businesses and asked him what he is expecting. Listen.
I think I'd be more worried not so much the wind, but the storm surge. That's where people can get in a lot of trouble.
Now, back on the mainland, the city of Charleston had been passing out sandbags to residents and business owners. They ran out and are now telling people who need additional sandbags to call their nearest hardware store. Shep.
Do you have a sense for why it is that the governor says evacuate 2 days ago and half of them haven't done it?
You know, you're always going to have some people who want to stay with their property. Some people say that when they left their property that it was damaged by the storm, and they felt that if they had stayed behind, they could make some spot repairs and prevent the damage from being as severe as it was. But state officials really want to get people out of the low-lying areas, and they're doing what they can to make this move as expeditiously as possible. They've reversed the lanes on I-26. In other words, all of the east eastbound lanes of I-26 are moving westbound. In fact, all of the lanes are moving westbound between the city of Charleston and Columbia in the middle of the state. Now, there are no exits allowed if you're in the reverse lanes along that 100-mile route. And Governor Nikki Haley says that you need to fuel up your cars and make sure that you have plenty of gas. But the reverse lanes are speeding people out of here very quickly. She says traffic is moving along nicely, but people may have to drive for a while before they find a hotel room because they are rapidly booking up throughout the entire state, Shep.
Jonathan Seri along Folly Beach. Man, Folly Beach after Hurricane Hugo. We spent the night in Mount Pleasant in the back of a satellite truck, and there were so many trees down all around us that you couldn't go anywhere for days. They had to cut residents out of their houses. There were so many trees. It was like a Lincoln log village. As far as you could see, there were no tops on any trees. All the tops of all the trees for miles and miles and miles were gone, and those had been used as missiles, and they'd gone through windows and knocked out walls and ended up in people's beds. That's what happened in Hugo. It was not as strong as this storm. This storm is stronger than Hugo was. Get out. As hundreds of thousands of people try to get out of harm's way, I'll speak with somebody who's flat out refusing to leave, and I'll ask her why she's staying and if she expects us to cover her funeral. I'll also take you to the National Hurricane Center to speak with the man in charge of monitoring this storm. He's a very serious person. And in just 2 minutes, an update on the presidential race with what both candidates are up to days ahead of their next debate on Sunday. Going to be a busy week. Hang tight.
I'm Leah Gabriel with the Fox Report now, and some of today's headlines from the campaign trail. We are just 3 days away from the next presidential debate. The candidates will face off in a town hall-style showdown on Sunday in St. Louis. Aides say Hillary Clinton is taking a break from campaigning, and she's hunkering down for debate prep. But she will be at a campaign fundraiser tonight right here in New York City. Clinton's former rival, Senator Bernie Sanders, is out stumping for the Democratic nominee in Michigan today. As for Donald Trump, he's holding a town hall event in New Hampshire tonight. His staffers tell Fox News the Republican nominee is using it as a final practice round for Sunday's debate. They say Trump will be off the campaign trail all day, most after the last presidential showdown. Our coverage of Hurricane Matthew continues right after this.
Hurricane Matthew, already a deadly Category 4 storm as it makes its way toward the east coast of Florida and up the east coast. A look at Florida's Atlantic coast now. The winds and the surf already picking up. As we reported, Florida is looking at potentially its biggest evacuation ever. But it's not the only state in Matthew's path. On our wall over here, look at the satellite picture. This big orange blob of rain and wind is headed up toward Florida, probably in somewhere around the Palm Beaches, though it doesn't really matter exactly where it hits. It's going to affect that whole coast all the way up into the Georgia and the Carolinas. Forecasters warn any kind of shift inland, just a 20-mile shift to the left, that could just ruin the whole state. But even if that does not happen, it's a very, very dangerous storm. Let's bring in Dr. Rick Knabb, who's director of the National Hurricane Center and live there with us. Rick, there's just no way to pinpoint this, so what is the advice for people?
You need to focus on the hazards and not on the exact path and exact strength of the hurricane. This is a potentially disastrous situation for a large area, and I want to highlight the storm surge hazard, the primary reason people are being told to evacuate. This is our prototype storm surge watch and warning. There'll be an actual warning next year, but this is just as important right now. All these areas from North Palm Beach all the way up through the rest of the Florida coastline, the Georgia coastline, and portions of South Carolina, and then a storm surge watch prototype there. This prototype storm surge warning means there is a danger of life-threatening storm surge, and emergency managers know which areas specifically we're talking about, and they have issued evacuation instructions. You've got to get out if you've been told to evacuate for the surge or because you're in a mobile home in inland areas. That's how we save lives in this scenario.
Been tracking hurricanes a long time. I don't know if I've ever seen this path before. Have you?
This is an awful track for so many reasons, and so many people are going to be impacted by multiple hazards regardless of exactly where or when the center might come on shore. It's going to come close enough no matter what, we think, to bring hurricane conditions to much, if not all, of this hurricane warning area. And it's it's not just going to be a coastal event. It's not just going to be about wind. People need to realize that 9 out of 10 fatalities historically in U.S. landfalling tropical cyclones have been due to water, either the salt water from the storm surge coming ashore or the inland flooding caused by heavy rainfall. Stay off the roads, and by tonight in central and northern Florida, you need to have your preparations done, conditions going downhill by tomorrow morning. And folks in Georgia and South Carolina, heed those evacuation instructions promptly as well.
How far out can you forecast? What's the long-term prediction for this thing?
Well, we do issue a 5-day forecast. Our watches and warnings go out 48 hours and 36 hours respectively, and we have enough to deal with in the next couple of days. Beyond Saturday night and Sunday morning, it could still be offshore. We have plenty of time to see what it might do to land areas after that.
Man, we wish you all the best down there. Thanks so much for all you do for all of us.
Thank you.
I want to get to Dolores Berhalter. She's dumb. She and her husband live in Palm Beach Gardens, just north of West Palm Beach. And you're not leaving? I know Dolores. Dolores and I are friends for years and years and years. What do you mean you're not leaving?
Well, I don't think we're going to be, we're not that close to the water, so we don't have to worry about
What, a mile, Dolores?
No, a couple of miles.
A couple of miles. I'm not close to the water. You're close to the water. You heard the guy from the National Hurricane Center say this is going to be a hurricane force winds event in Orlando.
Well, but I don't think the storm is going to be, I'm hoping it's not going to be as serious as they're saying.
Well,
and we're fairly well protected here.
They were hopeful in South Miami-Dade and Kendall and Homestead back when Andrew, they were very, very hopeful until they were all dead.
Well, let's hope that doesn't happen, Shepard.
Well, I do hope, but hope is not a strategy, Dolores. Why didn't you come up and visit us for the weekend or something?
Exactly. I should have done that.
You should have. Now, what are you going to do if Monday you still don't have any power, Dolores?
Well, I don't know.
You got a plan? I mean, do you have candles and batteries and
we have candles, batteries, food,
water in the tub.
Everything. You got it. The tub is filled up.
Now, did the cops coming around and making you sign a list so they know how to notify next of kin? Because that's how they scare the bejesus out of you.
Yeah, I know, but no, they haven't done that. So,
are there others there in your community who are staying?
Yes, everybody is. There are quite a few people here. Yeah.
I know how it is because my mom and I, as you know, lived in Destin. She lived there for 30 years along the Panhandle and the Redneck Riviera. Love it like you can't even imagine. And she would evacuate on average about once a year over 30 years. 30 evacuations is very expensive. It costs a lot of money. Wow. It takes a lot of time. You know how it is, though. It'll beat you to death looking for the no-tell motel 3 hours north up in somewhere godforsaken Alabama. I mean, it's not any fun. But one time, our house went away. One time, we came back to no house. We were renting. We came back. There wasn't a house. And if Mom had been in the house, Mom would have been, wouldn't have been good.
Exactly.
I worry about you, babe.
Our condos are hopefully hurricane proof. At least that's what they've told us.
I know they're supposed to withstand a 3. Your complex is supposed to withstand a category 3, and that may be all you get. In fact, you may not get but a 1, but you may get a 4.
Exactly.
Silly girl.
Well, I know.
Have you talked to friends out there on Long Island? Have you talked to Mike and Jeff?
I have talked to everybody. I've talked to Michael and Jeffrey.
Good.
And
so I'm supposed to not worry about you. Is that what you're saying?
No, you don't have to worry. We're going to be safe and sound.
Well, you know what that isn't? That isn't fair. It isn't fair because all the power is going to go off and we're going to get all these horrible reports unless they're wrong, and I hope they're wrong. But if they're not wrong, all the power is going to go off and we're not going to be able to contact you and nobody's going to know that you're okay.
I'll let everybody know.
I hope you will. Get that phone out and Facebook us as soon as you can.
Will do.
I don't like it. I don't have to like it, Dolores.
Okay.
So a lot of you Floridians, you're down there in your golden years and you're having a high old time, and you left the kids back in Michigan or something, and they're sitting they're sitting around the lake going, what the hell is with my mother? Why won't she do what she's told? You get so old you think you know everything.
Exactly.
Well, you're guilty. Guilty.
Right.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right, go put some water in the tub or something. Wash your hair. I don't know. This is silly.
Will do. Okay. Thank you.
All right,
okay.
love you. Be careful.
Love you too, Shep.
It's not really fair, people. If you're sitting down there in the villages and you've got family all over the country, they worry about you. All right now? Just put something in the suitcase. Head off to Irma and them's or something. Just go somewhere. We'll have a little vacation. Take some money out of that savings account, you know. It's what it's for, you know. Mike and Jeff will pay for it. High winds and rough surf picking up in northeastern Florida now, up around Jax. We'll get to Daytona for a better look at how folks are preparing for Matthew there. Hopefully they're getting out. Look at this fool. I mean, it's fine to be on the beach right now, but you need to get out. At Sweeney, no surfing. I just got an advisory from my apartment building in Manhattan that we're expecting weather conditions to deteriorate on Saturday. Stop it. We'll be back. Store owner in Daytona Beach, Florida, we talked to, told Associated Press as this Category 4 storm took aim at the southeast coast for the first time in more than a decade. Some images in our slideshow, folks getting ready for the hurricane. This is from the South Florida Sun Sentinel, and here you can see people at a shelter in Boynton Beach Community High School along the coast. Tiger pride, as you see. They're very proud tigers around there. This is an image. In this image, crews prepare supplies to respond to widespread power outages. Florida Power and Light is going to have a very, very big week ahead. The governor says people will lose power on the East Coast. This is Palm Beach International Airport. The kiosks have never looked so good. Ticket machines covered in plastic, all flights canceled in and out. They're expecting rain indoors. This business owner boarding up a motel in Daytona Beach. Not the height of the tourist season, thankfully, but even after all the warnings, some people say they are staying and will not evacuate. This bar along the beach in Daytona is boarded up, but apparently open and advertising a hurricane party inside. Geniuses. Some shelters in northeast Florida, so along Jacksonville and south, are already full. Emergency service officials in the Daytona Beach area, which isn't really northeastern Florida. Daytona Beach is sort of east of Orlando, and people there say at least 2 shelters filled up over the hours of opening this morning. Folks near the beach in low-lying areas and in mobile home parks especially under mandatory evacuation orders, which means get out. You should already be out. Turn the television off, get in the car, and go. County officials say they will be closing the bridges at sundown, and if you live there, you have a responsibility not to make first responders come to your house to find your corpse. You have to get out. It's not nice. The sheriff telling people not to count on rescue workers. They will not be there because the winds are too high to get people over the bridges. Leland Vittert is in Daytona Beach, where he's on genius alert. I hear there are geniuses to your left.
Shep, there are many. You can just look around at all the folks who say they're not going anywhere. And just now, if Greg Gursky pans all the way to his right, he is going to see the Daytona Beach Lifeguard Patrol coming by on their loudspeakers and telling people to get off the beach and, more importantly, get out of the water. There were some real geniuses out there who were surfing in this, and obviously that can go very bad very quickly with the riptide. The real concern, of course, Shep, is the storm surge that we've heard so much about. You see more people out there with their kids. This water is expected to rise 8 to 10 feet. That means it's going to come up over the boardwalk here and then slam not only into these businesses that are boarded up, but businesses 4 and 5 blocks back. That could happen anytime in the next few hours, Shep.
You say they're out there with their kids?
Yeah, take a look. You can see this is the selfies before the storm. So we've got the kids and the photography going on, maybe some live Facebook action. You never know what this brings out. And you talked about that hurricane party at the bar. If you pan over to your left, you've got some people who it appears are taking a break from the hurricane party at the bar and have come to enjoy the hurricane party at the beach. And at this point, it's a little sort of sad, perhaps amusing a little bit to watch this. But then we heard the police chief earlier, the Shep that you interviewed and that I talked to, saying that these are people who are going to put his police officers' lives at risk simply because they want to be out here. Goes way beyond not smart and way past selfish.
Yep, no doubt about that. You live on that coast, you have a responsibility. Thank you, sir. Time's up. That's what Florida's Governor Rick Scott said this morning. You live in this great state. You love being here. It's paradise. Now you got to go. Got to go. Got to evacuate from these areas. We've told you these are the areas where you must evacuate. If you live in that area, you must evacuate. It's a rule. But not everybody's listening. Because freedom and stuff. Freedom. Tell that to the cop Who has to come dig you out? What about that cop's freedom? You love law enforcement until all of a sudden you put them in jeopardy. Think about it. Come on, next 4 times ever. 4 times in 45 years for a storm. Today at 5 o'clock Eastern, 1 hour and 9 minutes from now, Disney World is closing. Does this tell you anything? The Florida Governor Rick Scott telling more than 1.5 million people to evacuate before it's too late. A live look, Delray Beach, just southwest Palm Beach. Forecasters say Hurricane Matthew could pack winds of 145 miles an hour by the time it reaches the peninsula. Right now, mandatory evacuation orders are in effect for areas of 7 Florida counties, including in the Palm Beaches. Nikki Murtaugh is in the Palm Beaches, actually just a few miles south in Delray Beach, Highland Beach, and she's not leaving. I know her too. Nikki?
Hi, Shepard. How are you?
I was better before I knew you were staying in Highland Beach.
Michael wanted to fly me up, and I didn't want to come.
Do you know how nice it is right now in New York? It's a lovely...
Oh, I'm sure.
It's great.
I'm sure.
We could use your cooking.
Well, I've been cooking all morning, so I have food, and I also have my chips and my chocolate, and I'm fine here.
All right. Is there going to be any day drinking?
Maybe.
Maybe. You know we worry.
I know you worry. I know you do, honey.
And there are people like you all over that fantastic state who have children in other parts of the country, and now all their children are worrying about you. Is that nice?
No, it really isn't, but we're fine down here. I'm in a well-built high-rise building, and we have 24-hour security. We have the front desk manned. I mean, we don't have any problems.
Do you have evacuation orders?
We have impacted windows. You've been to my building. You saw it.
You've got shutters and everything. I mean, you're as well prepared as anybody can be. Just like my friends who lived in past Christiana, Mississippi, were as well prepared as they could be until a 28-foot storm surge wiped their house off the earth. You know, I mean,
know. You know what? I was fine until I'm talking with you.
Well, I know, but I mean, so when the governor said it, that you didn't think twice about it, and when the Daytona Beach police chief said, "Don't make my men come out here searching for your corpse," when they said all that stuff, it didn't bother you. But when I say it bothers you, what's that about?
Oh, because I love you, and I know you love me.
I know,
That's
I do.
Why.
But more than anything, I don't like worrying about you, because you don't have any control. Your friends and family 1,000 miles away, we can't help, and you just feel helpless, and you feel bad.
But I have a lot of friends down here, Shep.
If anybody's got friends, it's you. Mm-hmm. So what are you going to do? You going to have some kind of party or something?
Well, I don't know. So far, I'm not going to do anything. I'll just wait. That I'm still going to therapy. That's another reason I didn't.
You're going where?
To therapy. Not now. I have to go next week.
Well, that's good. I thought you were saying you're going to Hialeah Park or something. I don't know what you're doing.
No. That's another reason why I didn't come up, because of my shoulder. So.
All right. Well, if it gets scary, just give a call.
Oh, I will. Michael's ready. He was ready to get me a ticket yesterday. He wanted me up there immediately, and I said, no, I'm fine.
Okay, well, stubborn.
Okay.
Be careful.
Okay, honey, so I hope I see you around Thanksgiving. I'll be up there for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Okay, same here.
Be careful down there.
Okay, take care. I will, honey. Thanks for your concern.
Boy.
Bye. Bye.
Mean. It's very mean. What? That's it. We'll be back. Makes its way toward the East Coast. We're learning just how much damage it did when it barreled through the Caribbean. Emergency workers say at least 114 people are dead now, most of them in Haiti. The Haitian government reports more than 350,000 others need some sort of help. Thousands of homes destroyed, lots of them shacks with sheet metal roofs. Haitian officials say more than 20,000 people are living in shelters now, and aid workers are trying to reach remote areas. The U.S. Navy reported yesterday at least 200 American troops were on the way to Haiti, along with 9 helicopters. U.S. officials also tell Fox News that American warships are standing by, ready to help the people of Haiti to work with rescue and recovery if needed. We'll see what this hurricane can do. We just got some brand new video in from the Bahamas. It's slow to get in, because communications are bad, but watch this. This is a house. See that? We can't play the audio because there's a wordy dirt in there. Somebody said a dirty word when that house just got this man's sister out of there. She survived, barely. She decided not to evacuate. So that was a good idea. It can be bad, you know. Here's the track over here. It may just skirt, you know. It may just skirt Daytona. It may just skirt Jacksonville. It may just skirt Charleston and Folly Beach and all the rest. It may just skirt it. That may be all that happens. Or it may go 20 miles inland. And that will be very bad. Should news break out, we'll break in, because breaking news changes everything on Fox News Channel. We have round-the-clock Team Fox smotherage for the rest of your life on this thing. We'll be live all night long tonight. I won't be, because I'm going to a family wedding. So if you're supposed to get out, go ahead and get out, because if too many of you perish, they'll send me down there. And I need to go to this wedding. Okay? Thanks.